Andrew, thank you so much for the time today.
Anytime, Teresa. Happy to be with you again.
Now, let's start with the federal charge. What does it mean to be charged with causing death on a mass transportation system, and why would federal prosecutors get involved in this case?
There's actually precedent for this. There's a statute in the code. There was a train guy in New York City, of all places, Frank James. So this has been used before. And there's going to be a lot of demagoguery around this about the feds taking it over. And I'm sure the Trump administration is going to use it for political purposes. But there's actually a pretty good nugget of an idea in here because when you look at mass transit, not only here in America, but around the world, it is a place where terrorism and violence and really bad stuff happens. And it is a place where if you commit a crime in a mass transit setting, or somewhere in a public setting that's confined, we really should bring the hammer down on those kind of crime and differentiate them. So there is a precedent for this. And although the politics will get in the way of it, it probably is a good idea as far as a little bit more deterrence on ugly acts of violence like this.
Now, the suspect has a lengthy criminal record, 14 prior cases. Should that history have raised red flags before this tragedy even happened? And what does that say about the justice system?
It tells you there's systemic failure all the way through that, and it's not just this case, although this is really egregious when you look at the long arrest record of this person. Most of these school shootings we get into, most mass shootings, a lot of crimes you get into it, we have the initial outrage, and then we get into it and we go, "Oh, this is somebody that was known to law enforcement, or they had some kind of contact with the criminal justice system, or they had some kind of a record of bad behavior that should have red flag." This keeps happening over and over and over again. This specific case, it's really egregious because you had things like evaluations ordered that looked like they were never followed up on. There was prison sentences where they go to prison, they're in the system. Did they get the sort of stuff in the system that they should have gotten that would have either treated them or go, "This is not somebody that's open to treatment and we need to treat them differently." There's this whole thing that's a long-running issue in America that the criminal justice system and the judicial system and the incarceration system all has gaps between them where people keep falling through, and then there's things like the magistrate level system, which has been a problem in the criminal justice system for a long time in America, where you often have people making judicial decisions that don't have a judicial or legal background that really make them qualified for it. All those things combine to make a hot mess in this particular case.
Now, this case involves a Ukrainian refugee, and some are calling this a national security or immigration issue. Does the victim's background play any role in how this case is being handled?
Well, this is almost like a case you would make in a lab to hit all the algorithms because on top of the class structure and on top of the race of the people involved, let's make them a Ukrainian war refugee so we get the hot topic foreign policy item of the last couple of years all on top of it. Yeah, it should be because we talk about immigration in these big sweeping generalizations. And here's somebody who, by all accounts, was a model person. They came here as a refugee. They were working hard, had at least two jobs that they know of. They were on their way home from one job in their work uniform when this horrific act of violence was perpetrated upon them. Yes, we can talk about all those things. And this is why it's been really hard to get into this case because it's so horrific. It's so the 4 minutes of video where they're just on the bus or the train in this case, sitting there and then just get stabbed in their work uniform. Yeah, it brings all that stuff up. And that's why people are having such a visceral reaction to this case.
And what's the legal threshold for the death penalty in federal cases like this one?
Well, it's high. You just mentioned it. Because it's federal, it automatically puts that on the table. We will see how it plays out. Are they going to do some kind of a deal here where usually what happens is you get a full confession, get life in prison, and they take it off the table and they don't have to fool with it. This is such a political hot button case. We don't know. Also, we know there's going to be evaluations as to the competency of the suspect that perpetrated this crime, see how that plays out. That would also play into whether or not it's a death penalty case, something we're going to have to wait on.
Now, this happened in August, and some on the right have criticized major media outlets for their lack of coverage on this. Is this criticism warranted?
Some of it is very, very fair. Because it was a black person that killed a blonde girl in public on video, people, and rightfully so, get a little gun shy on the racial component of this because they know there's bad faith people that will jump all over it. But it still happened. It's on video. Everybody's seen it, unfortunately, and maybe we should dial down showing that video all the time, all over the net. The families asked for us to do that. But this is something that you just have to deal with. And it does bring out the good faith in people, and it brings out the really ugly parts of people too. We'll be able to judge everybody by their reaction, but yes, you have to talk about it and they should all cover it. And if you're not covering it, that tells us something as well.
Well, Andrew, thank you so much for the time today.
Anytime, Teresa. Thank you.